You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is a place we're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, how y'all doing today? It's a nice, beautiful day, blue skies, good weather. I have Seth Hickman here from BISD's early college program, among other things. We're going to find out what he does, with all his spare time.
That's right.
I'm sure it's a full day. Anybody working for Jimerson is a full day.
It adds up.
But we're going to talk about this program, and I feel kind of in a unique position because I've been around so long that I've seen the district go from, at least at the high school level, from GT to AP to dual enrollment and to this early college program. I've been able to watch it develop over a course of time, and we're going to talk about how this early college program has been a tremendous benefit to the community.
Absolutely.
And there's several other districts that have followed our path on that, which isn't not unusual. I was telling Seth before the show, when I joined the high school in 1990, I was very surprised and pleased with how advanced the GT program was. I thought, I'd never been to Burleson. I thought it was a cow town or something like that. And come out, and they had a state-recognized GT program and a state-recognized special ed program. So there you go. Anyway, what exactly is your title, Mr. Hickman?
So I am Advanced Academics Coordinator for the district.
Mm-hmm. And that would include all the things that we just talked about.
All the things.
And all the levels.
Yep.
And do they still make the AP teachers go to that conference at TCU every summer?
Every other? Every other summer, yep.
Oh, every other, okay. Yeah. Because I had to go every summer. And It was always in the middle of July and always hot, but I always got a lot out of it.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And a lot of swag.
Yep.
A lot of bags and books.
Absolutely.
And anyway, before we jump into that, we're going to tell the sponsors about the sponsors make this possible. And they're all very excited. I notified them that, hey, we're going to have a monthly show with BISD. And they're like, that's fantastic. And I put it out on Facebook, and I got a lot of positive response because this is something that I think will be great for not just Mr. Allard's Neighborhood, certainly, but also for BISD to be able to put out the accurate version of what's going on. Because, sometimes you read something on social media and it blows up into something that it's not and blah, blah, blah. I hate to tell you this, guys, but just because you read it on Facebook, don't make it true. Unless it's on my page.
Of course.
Yeah, right. But anyway, thank you, Daniel, CrossFit Burleson. We're at 317 Southwest Wilshire. Thank you for sponsoring this type of show over there at the workout. It's a great workout, throwing the iron around at the CrossFit gym, supervision, training programs, security, all the things that you would want in a gym and facility for this serious workout. So thank you, Daniel, for what you do for the community. He's a former student as well. I've got a couple of advertisers that are former students. That's kind of nice. And the second one also is a former student, Shandy Stogsdill, for the Stogsdill group. She's looking for an agent right now if you're interested in applying with her, talking with her about that. But she also has several homes that she's showing, and in the Burleson area, it's growing. Now, you came here, you said, from Bryan about 10 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you live in the Burleson area at least.
Live in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But I come down and I bring my daughter down to BISD also every day. So she goes to school here.
Which school?
She goes to the Game Development Design School.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And that's on Wilshire, right? It used to be the venue 510.
You got it.
Yeah. And see, that's another thing. Are you in charge of that too?
I am not in charge of that, but I'm a big supporter as a parent.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's like...
It's unique.
30 years ago, first of all, that wasn't even a concept.
Right.
But now, have a school system that supplies that opportunity is fantastic.
It is.
All right, Taylor, I'm not getting the link here yet.
I'll send it to you.
All right. Also, thank you to Our Place Restaurant with Otto. And if you haven't eaten there, I bet you have.
Of course.
Everybody's eaten there.
Yes.
It's a great place. Otto's a big supporter of the system. Very much. And he's very generous. And he really provides a place for me to do business, other people to do business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in networking groups and all that. Oh, Michaela here says, the game school is designed after the University of Texas's game school. So we're going after UT, which I'll forgive you for as a Baylor fan, but still, the game school is after UT. It
is.
That's, all kidding aside, UT is one of the best academic institutions in the country.
It's my alma mater. I love it.
Is it really?
It is.
You lived in Bryan and yet in College Station?
My wife went to A&M.
Oh, Lord, I bet that's something.
It's rough.
Yes, I know. Michaela also is asking if our students can learn to code a game, they can code anything. That's true because
Absolutely.
I'm sure it's pretty difficult.
My daughter just sits down and says, okay, I'm tired of figuring out my allowance. I'm just going to code a program to do it for me.
Oh, brother.
I say, okay, fine. Go for it.
My son got in kind of the very tail end of that. He's a BHS graduate, and they got in just in the tail end of it. And I don't know if he'd be in the game design, but I know he would really like the computer parts of it.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And I'm just appreciative that we have that. Okay. Also, Chris, over at Wild Cigar and Culture, over the Standard, are you a cigar smoker, sir?
I am not.
Well, if you want to ever become one, this is the place to do it because
they
have a beautiful humidor and a tremendously wide selection. You walk in, wow, your circuits will be overblown. But they have tobacconists. We're not talking about just some college kid that's working part time. No, these guys are trained tobacconists, and so you tell them what you want and what kind of experience you want, they can do it. And also have a nice bar, and it's quiet, it's well lit.
That's great.
All the things, and so it's great. Now, here's a side note: both Chris and Otto. Chris is joining the contest. Chris and Otto putting on a contest through Mr. Allard's Neighborhood about voting. It starts next Monday. So if you send us a picture of yourself with an I voted tag or card or whatever else, we'll throw you in the drawing, and we'll have 2 winners, and you'll each get a gift card from both Wild and our place.
Nice. Yeah. And so early voting is next week. Is that when it starts?
24th through like November 2nd. It's the last week of October.
Okay.
Last 2 weeks of October, roughly, and then right into early November. And the date itself is November 8th. Yeah. And we've done this before, and it's just funny because I know one time one of the winners, I guarantee you, canceled my vote out, but we send her the cards.
Absolutely,
we don't care who you vote for. But anyway, both Chris and Otto will be providing those gift cards for those who participate. And I bet we'll get a bunch.
That's great.
And also, we have Local Life Magazine. This is a good place. I'm sure Michaela knows this publication because it goes to 30,000 homes, and she does a lot of public service announcements and things like that. In the middle of the magazine is where like a public space for the city or other institutions to put on them what's going on.
Right.
But it's a great advertising tool. I don't know if BISD would advertise, but if they ever wanted to reach out, it's a good place to do it because it's not only going to a bunch of homes, but I go to several businesses like Otto's, or I've seen like Christian Brothers or whatever, and there's a stack of them there.
Yep.
And, it really gets the word out.
Right. That's great.
Yeah. And she's a regular guest here as well.
Oh, good.
Also, this is where Mrs. Allard is now parked.
Oh, nice.
They were friends,
yes.
Seth and Mrs. Allard. She was very complimentary. I told her yesterday that you're coming on, and he's such a nice man. And
she is so kind and so good with the kids.
Well,
always appreciated her.
I appreciate that, and she really put a lot of effort into that job. And it used to be before she got really involved in the school system. She worked for the school system for about 19 years.
Okay.
But before that, when we go out in town, I'd be recognized. After a while, I was just Mrs. Allard's husband.
Yeah, and that's not a bad deal.
No, not that too bad. But she now works here at Southern Gym.
Okay.
Yeah. Southern Gym is on the top of the Windmill Building, and I take your wife up there.
All right.
Yeah. It's if she's into jewelry at all, even just a little bit, it's like going to Disney World.
Nice.
Because they have a really nice selection. Plus, if you have some jewelry to be repaired, my wife's getting her wedding ring repaired right now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so
good service.
It is. It's got repairs, got designs, and it also has layaway or gift cards, or gift list, so if Mrs. Hickman goes in there, she can make the list out and whatever else.
Fantastic. And they'll know what to do.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. And HotWorks. This is an infrared workout system on 731 with Michelle Humphrey. It's over by Chicken Salad Chick, which a lot of ladies know, but a lot of my guests have been on there are members of HotWorks. They rave about it. Taylor is a member of HotWorks.
All right.
Yeah. Which HotWorks program you do again?
Do Hot Blast or Thunder. So it's like a cycling type of thing, elliptical or rowing.
There's 11 different programs. And so you do it with an infrared system, so it maximizes the workout.
Okay.
And it's a good, clean, safe environment,
Right.
Security and all the rest. So
that matters.
It does. And then here's my insurance agent, Melissa Harmon. I just got my insurance with her at 682-804-0534. Melissa will get you on the Texas Farm Bureau insurance. I was able to up my life insurance. I was able to get car and house insurance, and it all kind of washed out. So I'm saving a few bucks, but I got a lot better life insurance coverage. And so it's a good wash. And so give her a holler if you want to have her her check out your insurance, and if she can't help you, she'll tell you.
That's great.
Yeah,
I like
but
that.
most people she can help, but if she's not going to manufacture something, she's a very, very honest woman.
Nice.
And lastly, Danette Juster at Pinnacle Concepts, 303-324-9906. She's redesigning this studio, so maybe I don't know when. It's Taylor knows more of the schedule than I do about when it's going to happen. But
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later.
All
yeah.
right.
A lot of it depends on not just financing or whatever else, but also depends on materials, supplies, and whatever else.
Of course.
But anyway, so thank you, Danette. We look forward to seeing what you're going to do with this place. Now, how long have you been with the district, Seth?
So 2010 is when I started with the district, back when Centennial opened.
Were you, as a teacher?
As a teacher, yep.
So you were known as the other Seth, I'm sure, for Seth Reeves.
For the other, and then the other Mr. Hickman, because we have another Mr. Hickman at Crossroads.
Okay. But I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
Seth has been on here before, too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I love him.
And you were a teacher, and then you went into like instructional coaching.
Yep,
is that
did
right?
2 years of instructional coaching there, and then came to the district after that as math coordinator.
Math coordinator.
Yep.
Okay. And then you're now in charge of the advanced.
Yeah, so advanced
Programs.
academics now, and this is year 3 in that role.
That really would be fascinating. I think if I really didn't have a real desire to be part of administration. I like the classroom.
Right.
But if I were to choose something, I would choose something along your lines,
Yeah.
because that's what I taught mostly was advanced classes.
Right. Yep.
So I do have some background on it.
Absolutely.
Now, when I started in 1990 at the high school, we had gifted and talented.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling, I mentioned earlier just how far advanced it was. I was telling beforehand
Yep.
it was. And the training was legitimate. I had to go to Texas Women's for some classes and things like that. It wasn't just like, here, read a book and you're trained.
Right.
Ann Brock ran that, and she ran that.
That's phenomenal.
Yes. Did you ever have a chance to meet her?
I did not know.
Yeah. But she was statewide recognized. I think she even won a national award for what she did. And so we had this whole squadron of GT teachers trained. Well, then about 2 years after that, in 92, beginning that year, they went to AP, at least at the high school level.
Sure.
And there was a little bit of pushback because would the GT kids be served in AP?
Right.
And we had to make sure that they did.
Of course.
Because AP and GT really are two different things, aren't they?
They're parallel, right.
They're parallel.
I mean,
but
they both serve advanced students and kids who are willing to push themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
But the difference I noticed between AP and GT is the AP was geared towards that test. It was a lot more fundamentally academic, whereas GT,
Right.
you would try to use other skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. You address the whole child, really.
Right. And as far as doing GT and then try to prepare them for a test, that really didn't work.
That test is rough no matter. Yeah.
Well,
so
but
you
it
got to
just-
be ready for it.
Yeah, well, like a history test would focus on the material, whereas GT, you focused on the process.
Right.
And that sometimes didn't translate.
Sure.
But now we still have GT.
We do.
We're at.
Yep. So we do GT K through 12. So we actually this last year expanded it all the way down to kindergarten.
Well, when you say K through 12, though, they don't have separate classes for gifted and talented, do
So
they?
no, we have separate classes beginning in kindergarten now.
Right.
It's a pull-out once a week. So
Right.
they meet with that GT teacher once a week, K1 and 2 for about an hour.
Right.
And then 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, it's a whole day a week that they get pulled out of those classes.
Yeah, I remember that part of it. And so that's still.
That's still going. And then 2 years ago, we added a GT elective class at the middle school.
Oh,
so
really?
kids can sign up for that. And right now it exists at Kerr and at STEAM. That's where we had enough interest in it. And so they have a GT class, one class period every day. And they are doing projects. The stuff they produce is fantastic. I got to go watch a play that the kids wrote last year. They do podcasts. They do all kinds of different things in those GT classes in middle school.
Well, is this GT class associated with a particular discipline, or is it more like
It isn't. It's way more open.
so it's more like the process as opposed to it's focused on
Exactly.
history or something like that?
So the GT goal is really to have kids who are researchers and kind of have that independent thinker, independent learner skill set. And so the GT class is really K all the way up, especially in that middle school, are focused on that research process and learning how to do that on their own.
Well, even when I had dual and AP classes, I still would get a list of the gifted and talented. Those have been
Absolutely.
designated now.
Yep.
And if we were doing what we were asked to do, which sometimes you're like grumbled about it, but you have to show in your lesson plans
Sure.
how you're addressing the GT population. Lesson planning got to be a lot more, I wouldn't say complex, but a lot more detailed in my last few
course.
years.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't like I didn't have to invent it from ground zero. I could take what I had before and adapt it and whatever else. But I always felt bad for these new teachers.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
Because we had to show what we're doing for ESL and special ed populations and whatever else, and including GT.
Of course.
And it was just part of the drill.
It is.
Just do it.
It is. You got to serve the kids what they need.
Sometimes you get a little fatigued, but you have to remember what we're there for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you say that, so you'd say the GT program, which is probably less prominent than the AP and dual, at least at the upper levels, is making a revival of sorts.
It really is. This year we added an independent study fair. We're in the middle of it for secondary kids, so middle school and high school. So those GT kids have this chance to pick a topic they're interested in and research it on their own, kind of with the support of a faculty advisor, and go through that whole research process, come up with their findings at the end, present those to us, and we'll have a fair in the spring to kind of judge those and have some winners. And but it's what the kids want to explore, and that's exciting for them.
Well, when I started the AP program at the history, and then I was also doing economics.
Right.
I tried to incorporate some creative activities, but they were very short, the time frame. I couldn't afford to take 2 weeks to go on some creative tangent.
Right.
So it made it kind of tough to address maybe the more creative aspects of these talented kids. But
yeah, and this is really aimed at that longer term to have that, stick with one problem or one project for 3 or 4 months is a different skill set than we get in a normal classroom.
Now, in terms of AP and dual, when we started adding dual to social studies, we did not have separate classes for AP and dual. They were all in the same class.
Right.
And we did that for several years, where, I get a class of about 30, and maybe 18 of them would be taking the dual credit, and about a dozen will be taking the AP credit.
Yeah.
But they all were prepared to take the AP test.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I was not differentiating. If it's third period AP history, they're all getting taught the same.
Here's the bar
material.
for everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd have dual kids that would take the AP test just because they were prepared to do it. Why not? Maybe you'll transfer to an out-of-state school, because what would happen with dual is that most Texas schools took it.
Of course,
but if you're going to go to school in California, they may give you elective credit, but they may not give you history credit.
Right.
But
that AP can count more.
Yes.
Yeah.
What really got to be a problem, though, is as more and more kids are taking AP and more kids are passing AP, the state universities began to withdraw its acceptance of AP scores. And it played havoc with particularly senior scores, because, they're seniors, they're tired.
Of course.
They're not caring as much, and we wouldn't get the scores until after they've left campus.
Oh, right, so they're not as concerned.
No, but Texas and A&M and TCU and Baylor, which where I'm from, began. You must have a 4, which is tough, and then for Rice in Texas said no, you must have a 5, which is really tough.
Yes.
Right before I retired from public school, state of Texas passed a law saying they had to accept it at 3 or better.
Right.
That was one of the best laws they ever passed.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because a 3 is pretty legitimate.
It is. And that creates buy-in for a kid, because that's achievable with the hard work, with the determination that we want to see in a college-level course. It's achievable.
And it's, as far as the scores, because of the fact that the universities are being more difficult, our scores dropped.
Sure.
And we also had a lot more kids. We had let me rephrase, I guess. We had a lot of incentive for the kids to take those tests, not just for their own sake, but for the district's sake, because we are scored as a district about how many kids take the test, how many kids take the class, what their scores are. I mean, the whole rubric that we're judged by includes that. And so we basically would pay for it, and we'd give them some incentives. And like, if you take the test, you want to take the final in that class. And so we had a whole lot more kids taking it, and our scores, as a percentage-wise, were drifting down.
Sure.
Because, we had kids that weren't even in AP taking it, and that's just not going to work.
No, that doesn't work.
What do y'all do for the AP training? Is it still seminars and TCU and all that?
Yep, TCU supplies those great trainings. Some teachers go to UTA for theirs, and so we kind of support that. One of the benefits of the transition to online learning during COVID is so many universities opened up their AP training to teachers online. So we got some teachers who got to go hear some people, instructors they don't normally get to hear through that online learning. I mean, we all appreciate being face-to-face in those trainings.
Is it still required?
It is not required, but we want our teachers to do it because we know it's
suggested.
It's what's best for our kids if they know what's going on in that test.
It's kind of like it was in my day. It was required unofficially. Like
Right.
when you're going was the question, not if you're going.
Right.
And if you didn't go, I don't know. We got another teacher that's trained in AP,
right.
and your
Somebody else
secretary
wants to.
because a lot of people wanted to teach what I taught.
Of course, yeah.
Because they all think they're all great students, and for the most part they are, but they're also kids.
Every kid's a kid.
Well, I had most of my students were mature enough to understand why they were there. They were still 16, 17.
Right.
They still they thought about boys or girls, whatever.
Yep.
They thought about the prom. They thought about, all these other things, or they had jobs or football and whatnot. But they understood why they were there.
Right.
And they had most of them had support systems at home. But that doesn't mean they're all angels.
Oh, no. Yeah, we hope they have that determination, but kids are kids.
Yeah, they still would try to get on their phone or pass notes or as far as like academic dishonesty, it was an occasional thing, but it wasn't endemic.
Right.
It was not a problem overall, but every now and then you have to deal with it. But would you say that the district is focusing more on dual now than AP, or is it you think it's equally focused?
I think it's more even than it has been in the past, but we really have made some good strides with the dual credit. We changed grading policy a couple years ago so that and it rolls up with kids. So right now, kids who are freshmen or sophomores, they get equal grade weighting for a dual class compared to an AP class. So they don't have that GPA incentive to take one or the other. They can take the one that's right for them and for what career they want to go into, what school they want to head towards, so that they really pick the right course for them.
You said this is something that changed just recently. I think they were weighted in my latter days when they split the classes up.
Right.
I think I remember that was a big deal.
Right.
Are these kids going to get the same weight, even though academically, supposedly, AP is supposed to be more rigorous than dual? Now, I can't speak for the teachers, but I was using more or less the same curriculum for both classes.
And they're both potentially get college credit for either one, right? And so that was kind of our thinking is if you can get college credit for this class, that should be weighted the same no matter which route you're taking to get there.
But the dual teachers, or the teachers that teach dual, are almost always BISD employees, except for maybe the
early college high school. You're right.
But over at Centennial and at the high school, I still call it the high school.
I'm with you. Gotcha.
BHS. They were people like me,
right?
And
BISD employees teaching those dual credit classes.
And we got stipends, which I think most people in administration liked because it was a way of keeping teachers around, paying them like a bonus almost without coming out of BISD's budget.
Right.
I got paid about $1,600 a class.
Right.
And it really helped.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
about
great.
2 or 3 of those classes a semester. And so I was getting paid extra money, and BISD didn't have to fund it one iota.
Right. But those kids get that extra support of you having that college curriculum in mind and preparing them for that and have that experience, which is fantastic and helps them be successful in the long run.
And, I was still bound by BISD policies. I mean, a couple of my colleagues would say, well, since they're teaching college, I'm going to, have like only 3 or 4 assignments and all that. And that didn't go very far.
Of course not.
Because first and foremost, they're BISD students.
Yep.
And so I didn't have any issue following BISD grading policies or, discipline policies or whatever else.
Sure.
So, we had to have a certain number of grades and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And I thought that was a real advantage. Plus, I was there in the morning and the afternoon, so kids could have access to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do BISD teachers still do dual on campus?
They do. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, who does it on the EC program?
So at the Burleson Collegiate High School, we have Hill instructors who do it there. So they come onto the campus and they will teach those courses. So they're in the bell schedule, just like any other high school. We do a A-Day, B-Day block scheduling there because that's what Hill does. And so we match their schedule, but then those Hill instructors come to teach those college credit courses. And then we have BISD employees teaching their high school credit courses. So, for instance, Algebra 1 isn't offered for dual credit.
Right.
But we have a teacher teaching Algebra 1 to those freshmen. And so that's a Burleson BISD employee there.
Or like the government teacher, which is what I teach for Hill, is a Hill employee,
Is a
one
Hill
of my
employee.
colleagues.
Yep.
You know, and they come, he or she, what's the person teaching it?
I don't know who it is this year.
Yeah, because I know Hill takes care of that.
They do.
How
Yep.
much say does BISD have over what Hill brings you in terms of their personnel?
Really, we work on that as a partnership to make sure that the instructors there have a good sense of what it is to teach. For instance, freshman music appreciation is dual credit.
Right.
So what is it like for a freshman to step into high school? Number one is a big change for a freshman, but then step into a college course as a freshman. You want an instructor who's willing to say, let's learn how to be a college student as you learn my content. And so we really have worked hard to find the instructors who have a gift for that and helping those kids be successful while keeping the rigor of a college class in the same process. So
Well, that's what I've been told by some of my Hill colleagues. For some, they love it. For others, they thought they were being sentenced to Siberia.
Right.
Because they maybe never have taught kids. They've taught older adults or, young 20s, whatever. And then I just remember one of my government colleagues just said, I'll never teach in dual enrollment again. These kids are driving me crazy. And I go, I did it for 30 years. So I feel your pain, brother, but it's all right.
But that's what it is. Dual enrollment. Yeah.
Yeah, but I taught mostly juniors and seniors, and a lot of the, shall we say, the kinks have been worked out of the kids, so to speak. By the time I got them, they had matured to a degree,
Of course.
high enough that they could handle this kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
As a freshman,
That's why it's only one.
Yeah.
Music appreciation is a good step in the right direction.
right? But that would be pretty rugged.
It is.
So
It is.
So I
Yeah.
guess in the college program, if it's not offered by Hill, we still offer it there on that campus, so kids aren't having to move back and forth on campuses.
Right. No, they are just in that Burleson Collegiate High School building all day. And so they do all their classes there, whether it's a high school credit class or a dual credit class.
Now, if it's a dual credit class, they also get the high school credit for it.
Right. They do. So, so English 3 is both college credit and high school credit. Yep.
Okay, and so at the end of the day, when a young man or woman crosses that stage, you have your separate graduation ceremony.
Right. So they have the BCH graduation.
And when they walk across that stage, besides a high school diploma, what else do they have?
They get that Associates of Arts and Liberal Arts. So they have that associate's degree ready to go and then ready to step into whatever's next for them.
So they can go to UTA or some other local campus as a junior.
Right. And step right into that. Yeah.
And how much money did you just save those parents?
Oh, so much. It is phenomenal. Yeah. Our dual credit program in, I think the 2021 school year, we kind of did an estimate compared to prices of courses at our flagship state universities. Dual credit saved our kids about $1.5 million. Our kids, let's say our families.
Well, as somebody helped put both my kids through school, it's an expense.
Right.
And both my kids walked off BHS campus with some credits. I think my son walked off with about 18 and my daughter about 12.
Yeah.
And it did save me some money.
Right.
But,
walking out with 60 credits with your associate's degree, that's huge.
that's astounding to me.
It is.
And I know there are other schools in the state that have done it, but not in this area. We were like one of the very first.
We were early and we do it well.
Yes.
We have a much, much higher rate of kids finishing their associate's degree than just about anybody else.
Well, what about a student that wants to do this, but for whatever reason, aptitude, circumstances, whatever else, they can't stay with the program? Can they can transfer back to
Oh, absolutely.
BHS or Centennial?
Yeah, if they realize it's not the right match for them, they can.
So it's
they
not
can
like
finish.
you're out of luck. You can just go back to a more traditional school.
Well, and then you can take some dual credit classes at BHS and CHS,
Right.
so you can still get some of those credits there.
You get a lot of attrition, or is it you get most of your kids stick around?
They do a fantastic job of supporting students. You'll see principals tutoring kids, making sure that those kids are successful. The support system there is what makes it work. And so kids stick with it for the most part.
As far as other activities that most high schools have, band, choir, football, whatever, are those college kids eligible for those things?
Nope. So they kind of give up all those UIL pieces to go to collegiate high school. And so that's the trade-off. You get your 60 college credits, but you don't have that experience. So they have similar experiences for them, but it's a whole different scale. And you know that that's what you're giving up to go there.
Is that an impediment to getting more kids involved?
Really the kids who go there are kids who might not be involved if they were at a traditional high school anyway. So they are happy to do that. One of our new programs that we're working on is a superintendent scholars program.
Oh,
and
really?
So,
Well, Kayla mentioned that when we were talking yesterday.
So it's something we started last year, and it's really to help our kids who have the potential to reach National Merit Commended status from their PSAT test be ready for that. And so we do a lot of support things, but some of the things we do are just fun. We get together for a Saturday and just play kind of academic games and competitions together, and the schools compete against each other. So the BCHS team last year, when we got together on a Saturday in March, they were the ones who won that, but that was their chance to compete against the other high schools that they don't normally get. So they appreciated having a chance to do some competition.
Well, we were talking about this beforehand. Since we're one of the few states that schedule athletics and band and all these other activities during the day, I mean, that's a tough choice because in a lot of states, it's after school and they could probably still do it.
Right.
And I doubt very seriously they'll want to change it. I mean, any school board or superintendent that suggests that in this state is going to be labeled a commie, but that's not going to happen. But that's a real sacrifice. Your attrition rate, though, is not that high, is it?
It really isn't. The support they give is just phenomenal. So kids are successful.
Now, we have a lot of homeschooling in this region. And is it possible for some kid to be doing homeschooling but come to the college program for maybe their physics class or their English class?
Nope, it's one that if you're in, you're in. So you're doing the whole thing there. Yep.
Is that possible that might could change, or is that just not really on the dock right now?
Yeah, I don't think that's something in the cards for us right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, I think from what I understand this program, you're not just trying to get them a class or a credit. You're trying to immerse them in a culture.
Yep.
And a collegiate culture as best you can. And of course, you're building that extra wing, which I will be using starting in the spring.
Fantastic.
Well, if I teach Monday and Wednesday afternoon class and a Thursday class, Thursday night, and I'll be teaching them there.
Great. Yeah, we're excited about that.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do for the day classes at the we meet at that old church. It's been around forever.
Right.
I don't know what they're going to do with the day classes. If they're going to be taught along at the same time, and we're going to have like, a 16-year-old kid along with 40-year-old single mom taking the class in the afternoon.
I think we're still going to try to keep some BCHS only classes so that those kids have the support system that we have in there. If needed, we have some added flexibility, but I think our intention is to keep those classes as BCHS classes as they are right now.
Well, I've asked several people at Hill, and they go, I got no idea. I mean, Hill, God bless them, it's like they build the plane in midair kind of thing, so nobody I work with down at the Burleson campus has any idea if, when, and what. But
it's a new journey for us, for sure.
But I did ask them, said, is this afternoon class, it's 12:30 to 1:40, Mondays and Wednesdays, is it going to be in that new wing? And is it going to be held at the same time? We got, 9th through 12th graders going to in the same building, same hallway, same facilities, whatever else. And they said, why you ask me? I just work here, So have they talked to you about that?
No, we're still working all of that out. So I think that's going to be one of the things we figure out. But we know that we've been so successful the way it's been set up. So whether that class is in the BCHS section of that building or the Hill College, we know it has worked for us so far. And so
they may be separate altogether in separate parts of the building.
The freshman, sophomore classes are all staying on the BCHS side. The college classes for those, so that music appreciation won't be in the new wing. It would stay where it is. And then those junior and senior classes are the ones that we'll talk about, how will those move over? How will they be supported? But it'll still, run within the BCHS bell schedule and all of that because we match up with Hill for that. So that helps.
Yeah, and I'll probably be the only person on that whole campus that was there when it was BHS.
Right.
My first 7 years were on that campus as a high school teacher.
Right.
I spent 2 years prior to that at Hughes, but I still have a lot of fond memories of that building. It was kind of beat up and kind of worn a bit, but it was very hometown.
Yeah, well, and all the renovations that our crew does are just amazing. As they've redone the various schools, everything just turns out looking beautiful. And
I'm going to ask for my old room back.
Fantastic. Go back.
123.
Nice.
Which was great because it's right across from the library. Is it still the library there?
So last time I was over in that section, when BCHS was there, it was the cafeteria.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is right now, but that's what it was a couple years ago.
Well, just remember it was a library, and that's where the copy machine was, and the coffee pot, and all the early morning chit chat.
That's right.
So it was a
those
great
lockers
place.
right there next to it.
Oh, it was a great place, and I really liked it, even though, it was time to move when we built that new school, but because that building was falling apart. But I still have a lot of fond memories, and I look forward to going back on there. And I hope, but during the day, it'd be great. But they'll let me know my schedule when they let me know.
That's right.
And then also it has to work around my DBU schedule. I teach there as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
so it's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it.
Right. Yeah.
So when you go back to the college program, though, I bet you have colleges contacting y'all all the time, don't they? Particularly for seniors for, recruiting and whatever else.
Yep. We have, they're on campus all the time during lunches or during the flex time to visit with kids. We had our college night just a few weeks ago. So college fair opened up and we had about 60 campuses, colleges and universities come and visit, and kids were able to talk with them. So, that's always a great night when kids get to make those connections. And
now, but this program really is not just wide open. It's really meant for a certain type of student, isn't it?
Right. It is. It is aimed at students who might be first generation in their family to go to college and need that extra support. Because really the intention is you finish your 60 hours with us, you go on and finish your bachelor's somewhere else, and you have all the preparation you need to be successful in that program. I mean, the transition from high school to college it's a big step.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Even if they're living at home, it's still a different environment.
It is for sure.
Is there a cap to the number of students you'll have?
So there is a recommended cap from the state, but it's well above where we are. So we can grow that program without any trouble.
Well, let's say somebody like in my situation, my parents are college graduates, my wife and I are college graduates, my son and daughter were going to be college graduates, but because they had the aptitude for it.
Right.
If I had wanted them to be in this type of program, if they were still, the appropriate age, would they be turned down because of the fact that their parents and grandparents and a lot of their extended family are college graduates?
So we aim at that kind of target population, but that doesn't mean that's 100% of the population of the school. So it is open wider than that. So if a kid says, this is the right place for me, for where I need to be, for what I want to do next, and then we can say, yes, this sounds like a good fit, and let's bring you in.
I would just think that as college becomes incredibly more expensive, and it gets harder and harder to afford it, that you're going to get a lot more interest in this, not just from maybe, shall we say, middle income or, no college background families,
right?
But from everybody that, and that whatever.
Yep.
We have a response here, Ms. Burns, Katie Burns. My son wants to go to DBU. What do you teach there? He wants a business ministry degree. Well, that's a good place to get it.
Right.
You were a minister at one time.
I was, yes.
Where did you get your certifications and whatnot?
I went to Wake Forest University in North Carolina.
My wife's from North Carolina.
Oh, great.
Kings
I never knew
Mountain, if you ever you know what that is.
Yeah.
So what do I teach her? She's asking. I teach this semester. I like to say I'm teaching constitutional law because it makes me sound real smart.
Absolutely.
But I am teaching constitutional law, and then next semester I have that online, and I also teach American government, federal government as they call it. And it's a good place to get this kind of degree. I've had students that got business ministry degrees there, or we're working towards it. I highly endorse DBU.
Yep.
I really do because
great place.
It goes for it has certain type of purpose, a Christian-based education of high quality, and I think they do that.
Right.
That's their goal, and they really do a good job of that. And I would recommend any kid. Now, I'm a Baylor guy, and I can recommend that school too.
Of course.
But, I'm very fond of DBU. They treat me well, and the kids have treated me well, so there you are. But anyway, I'm just back to what we're talking about. I just was thinking that you probably, as the years go by, you're going to get to a point where that college program may be almost the same size as maybe closer to size as the other two traditional schools.
I would love to have that challenge of figuring that out.
Yeah.
That'd be a great thing.
You'd ever see it maybe getting its own campus, or you think it'll stay there and renovate Curd till the end of time? I mean, that thing was built by the Pilgrims, I think.
Well, we just keep finding the right use for the right piece of it, and it's been great.
Well, we were on... My first year, I did night classes for Hill back in 2004. We were in, I guess they still call it the 300 building. Okay.
Right.
And we were in the back and windowless rooms. I mean, we were like in a dungeon. And that's when the city bought that Methodist church.
Right.
When they moved out, and we've been there ever since. And I'm going to kind of miss that a little bit because it's not opulent, but it's adequate.
Right.
But this is probably going to be a little nicer.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks once we get it open.
Well, I know that's also been delayed about a year because of COVID, because of whatever.
It's just rough to do any of those kind of things right now.
Now, I was asked this: how much does it cost the parent to send their kid to this school?
To Burleson Collegiate, nothing. I mean, it is just a school that you can choose as a BISD student.
Well, Hill's not doing it for free, so I mean, somebody's paying Hill. Is it coming from the budget?
That is coming from the budget. Yep. So we support that, and that's part of the agreement from TEA with any early college, high school. That's what we do.
All right. Well, I'm glad because we do have the Opportunity Fund.
Right.
And I have, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many students that have
it's
come to Hill that
phenomenal.
have taught at Hill from the Opportunity Fund. It's one of the best things. I tell other people outside of this community, if you graduate, you get to go to Hill for a couple of years for free. And
That's
they're like,
right.
that's fantastic.
Right. Who else gets to do that? Yeah.
It really is something. And now, I mean, we are setting ourselves up in a situation that you can get that associate's degree for very, very minimal cost.
Yes. I mean, that is an incredible service of this community for all of our families.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was the idea, I suppose, from Dr. Jimerson. I'll tell my listeners a little background, and I'm going to dive into some history of BISD. We were doing dual enrollment. When I first got here in 1990, there was a couple of dual classes that they got their credit from Texas Wesleyan. It was a math class and an English class, and that was it.
Okay.
Just one of each. It was like calculus and then English 4.
Okay.
And then we started doing dual, I'd say early 2000s.
Okay.
And they would do dual and AP in the same room at the same time, right? Like I mentioned before.
Right.
Well, one of Jimerson's predecessors, not Crummell, but the one before him, whom I shall not name, tried to kill dual. There's no other way of putting it. He tried to kill it because he wanted everybody in AP because it makes the scores look different. And we had a couple of board members. One of them still there, Andy Pickens, I remember, was elected, and a guy named Scott Atwood. And he got on board and said, "What do you mean we're killing dual? Are you crazy?" And so they, at the nick of time, they revived it. And Mr. Crummell helped revive it because he wanted it. And when he took over as the interim superintendent, and he stayed on for about 3 years, he kind of kept it alive. And then when Jimerson comes aboard, said we're going to expand it. And that's when I first started hearing this idea about going to school in this type of atmosphere and coming away with an associate's degree.
Right.
But it took 4 years or something to get it together.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's not something you just lightly jump into. Even though, we move fast on some things. This is worth doing well and doing right.
Well, you don't want to do it poorly, certainly, because, a lot of people, I don't remember a great deal of pushback. This was ideas being seriously debated and created my last couple of years. And I don't remember the community getting all worked up about it, but I do know there was some concerns about expense, about who's going to do it. Is this going to turn into a talented and gifted magnet school?
Right, right.
They did not want this to turn into something other than, what you have in mind, which is for a certain type of student or from a certain type of situation. They didn't want it, shall we say, the elite students gravitate towards that.
Of course.
And I'm glad we've kept that.
Yeah, it really has been done what it was supposed to do.
Yes. Ms. Burns is always talking about they're taking to look at Liberty University. That's good. And also, but they take AP classes to transfer, but DBU, you're right, Kaylee. I would prefer DBU over Liberty because it's right down the road as opposed to Virginia. But whatever. But anyway, I really am impressed with the fact that there's no out of cost expense. The books are provided. The instruction there's no dues or tuition. So what am I talking about? Tuition. Supplies are taken care of.
The only thing is, if a kid fails a college course and they need to make it up, that's on their own. So their first attempt at every course we take care of for them. So kid struggles and they have to take it in the summer, that's on the family.
Well, let's say that you have a kid taking in a dual English 3 and he fails it.
Right.
Could he take it as a senior? As part of his regular schedule.
So really, at that point, we want them to make it up before that, so that he'll be ready for English 4 as a senior and take that dual English 4.
Well, I know they teach it there. In fact,
Yep.
One of my ex-BHS colleagues, Stephanie Johnson, teaches English, and we quite often, teach in the same night. And
right.
And also when I was teaching night school, before you had this program, I had high school kids that had not taken it at night.
Right.
Because they'd get both credits. And BHS would recognize that night school credit for the high school. But I would have maybe in a class of 20, I bet I had 3 or 4 every semester that were taking it at night. And, you'd ask, why aren't you just taking this during the day during dual? And when it's offered as a dual class, and they would say, well, that's why I get out of school early and I could work.
Right. Yeah.
Or go to bed later or whatever,
Right.
But or a lot of it is because, I taught at the high school and they knew me and they said, well, if I'm going to take a college course, at least.
I want to take it from Mr. Allard.
Right. Well, yeah, not because I'm so wonderful, but because they knew where to find me the next day.
Right.
So they knew that if I'm taking this night class and I'm already at BHS and he is too, if I have any issues, I know where to find him rather than having to hunt him down.
Absolutely.
So that worked out pretty well.
And we still have a handful who do that, but it's pretty rare these days since we have so much built into the school day.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Now, as far as assistance for AP, do y'all still pay for some of those tests?
Nope, families take care of that now. The state and College Board help fund it if the family is on free and reduced lunch.
Right.
So, but
well, that's what I was thinking about, because I know it costs some students only $5.
It's gone up a little bit, but not much. I think it was $13 this year.
Okay.
For that, and about 88 or 89, I forget, for the standard test.
Right. I thought at the time, if I remember right, it was like $85.
Yep.
If you're just doing it, or if you're on free and reduced, it costs you $5. I know also there were other incentives or whatever financial incentives they could provide, like help pay for half or whatever. I think that might have come out of campus budget or something that.
Yep.
Yeah. Not everybody paid the full freight, but there was a great number of them that paid less than the asking price.
And it's also, even if you're paying full price, so much cheaper than 3 hours of college credit anywhere else.
Oh, absolutely. And all the trouble. I tell kids, they say, I don't know if I want to take the test. I said, oh, really? Well, great. And so when you're paying big wad of dough to sit in a huge 400-person auditorium over at A&M or whatever else, and you're having to pay all this money for books, let me know how that's going for you.
That's right. You could have paid your $88 and been done with it.
Oh, is that well, I think a lot of them would say they're just taking the test because they weren't trying to avoid that kind of situation. But the dual and AP really are two separate things.
Although there are kids who take some of both. So if I'm heading towards maybe a math or science career, I might take those AP, but I might take my social studies as dual, because I'm not going to have as many requirements in those, and that can just take care of it for me.
Well, that's what I would advise kids at the latter part of my career, when we had them two different classes and say, what should I take? I said, where are you going to go to school? Well, I'm going to go to UTA. I'm going to be a math major. Well, take my government class dual.
Absolutely.
Right. Or they say, well, I want to be a history or political science major. I'd say, well, then you probably should take AP. And they may or may not accept that credit, but you're going to be a lot better prepared for class. Yeah. And I think that's an underrated thing about Burleson, is that I had kids that went to, you name the school I had.
Oh, of course.
All over. I mean, Ivy League, the military academies, Stanford, Rice. Now those were, the minority of numbers. Most of my kids went to UTA, North Texas, Tarleton, TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech.
Yep.
That's where the majority of them went.
Yep.
Or Stephen F. would get a few. And I would ask them when they come back to visit or run across them, hey, were you prepared? And almost all of them said, yeah, your class or so-and-so's class, or Miss Tatum's class.
Yep.
These other classes prepared me.
Right. And that's the whole goal, right? Is for them to stick with it. We have about 80% of our kids who end up in college continue on to their sophomore year, which is above the national average. And that's, I think, because of teachers like you who made sure they were ready to take that step.
Well, and, I remember my son, I asked him, and he was particularly fond of Miss Piles and Miss Lacoste and Miss Tatum.
Yeah.
That's why their names come to mind so quickly, because he mentioned them. But it just, I think that the community should understand, if they probably already do, most of them do, just how high quality these teachers are. I mean,
yes.
Like I said, I come into Burleson, I don't know anything about this town. I first come in, and it's a small town, not like it is now, certainly. And I was just amazed about some of the teachers they had on that campus. I remember I taught with an English teacher colleague, and she had like a University of Virginia education and all this. I'm thinking, you're the kind of teacher who would teach at Country Day or something like that. Right. Oh, no, I like this as well.
Absolutely.
This is what I'm here for.
We have plenty of teachers with their doctorate in their field, and that's a great thing for our kids also.
And it gives credibility.
It does.
Or a master's degree. I got my master's in 94, and the financial benefit to me was teaching dual.
Right.
But it also gave me credibility, I think, with the kids. When I say I have a master's in this subject, to go, well, I guess he knows what he's talking about.
Exactly.
You know, he may be boring, but at least he knows his stuff. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever miss the classroom?
I do. So, you know, the great thing about my job is I sometimes get to be with kids. So I was over with a group of Kerr students yesterday and working on prepping them for being successful in the PSAT 3 or 4 years down the road. But it's fun to be with the kids still. So that's one of the perks of this job is I still get time with kids.
Well, you know, and you hear stuff about schools, about, you know, how difficult it is to teach. And it's true.
Sure.
Discipline's an issue and academics are an issue and all this. But I can tell you right now, back in 1990, we had our share of turds as well. Sorry, guys, but that's what they were. So it wasn't like back in the day we were all walking down the hall singing hymns.
Right.
We had issues.
Sure.
But I think as our town has grown and our schools have grown in size, it just seems like it's overwhelming. And so over the next few months, I'm going to have your colleagues from other areas of the district come and talk about that. I'll probably Scott Shea's working for the administration now.
Yes.
I'm going to try to get him on for security issues. And I have maybe April Sorelli or somebody from her office talk about curriculum issues.
Absolutely.
Brenda Mize or somebody like that from financial.
Sure.
Michaela, I'm sure, will make a visit here.
Of course. Yeah. We're grateful you're giving us this chance.
I'm the beneficiary, and so is the community. I really am. This is the kind of shows that people like to hear. They can hear me bellyache about Biden some other time, and so they like these shows. And I think it's important that y'all have an ability to state your case, make your programs known to the community, because some people may not even know that you have very college programs.
Oh, of course, right.
Scholarship, what do you call it? Superintendent scholarship.
Superintendent scholars, yeah. I mean, and it is a great district. That's why I bring my daughter here. And
that game school, and it's like, you know, that takes a lot of thinking outside the box.
Oh, it does. It does for sure.
You know, and I'm glad I live in a district and taught for a district that did that. Not everything we did worked out as well, but most things have.
Yeah.
And I think we're fortunate as a community.
Absolutely. It's pretty amazing, the opportunities our kids have.
You're not going to go anywhere anytime soon then?
I am not. Nope. I am committed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're close on time, and I always let the guests have the last word. So tell the vast listening audience here what you would like them to know, not just about the early college program, but any of the advanced academics.
You know, I think the thing to know is that every kid is a part of advanced academics. We want all kids to be college ready. That's BISD's mission. And so really, as advanced academics coordinator, that sounds really specialty, but it's not. We want college readiness for all our kids. Whether they choose that opportunity or not, I want them to be ready for it.
Well, it's not just for going to like UTA, but it also means going to maybe a school to learn a trade. Like
absolutely, certification programs will get you set.
Yes, I mean he'll ask associates in like HVAC and other things like that, and so
that's what we want kids to be ready for.
Yeah, you still have to be prepared. You're not going to just roll out of the sack and get a certification.
Absolutely.
So I'm really proud of what y'all are doing. I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate being the first person from BISD.
The inaugural episode. In about a month, Michaela and I will get together, and I'm going to pretty much let her choose whom she wants, because she's in charge of the promotion of their district, and she knows what needs to be talked about. So I'm going to let her basically send me some victim or something like that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad to be the first victim.
Well, I'll tell Robin you said hey.
Yes, please do.
Next week, on next Thursday, a week from today, I have Ronnie Johnson and Rick Green from the City Council on. Monday and Tuesday, I may just talk about world events. I haven't done that in about a month because I've been fortunate to have guests. So thank you, Taylor.
Always.
And we'll see you. This will be on Spotify and Apple pretty soon. Betty Arbor says, great podcast. I appreciate you listening, Betty. You're one of my best listeners. Same to you, Kaylee. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.